looks like you've been pretty busy, right?
Yeah, it's a strange thing. Because of COVID, obviously, a lot of projects that I've done over the last, let's say, 2-3 years, there's been a weird glitch, in production and post-production. So there's a sudden cluster of stuff that's coming out now that I've been involved with over quite a long period of time. But, it's great because it gives the illusion that, man, this guy's busy. He's everywhere.
that too. And then also there's the thing about your range also, because geez, man, sorry, sir, between the Emperor and Henry, it's miles of a difference.
Well, I'm a character actor. I mean, I that's what I enjoy. I enjoy bringing different stuff to different shows. They're two very different films. They're both in, I guess you could broadly categorize them in the same genre, but they're very different films, both with a fierce indie spirit, but they're executed in a very different way. So my job always as an actor is to come and join the show in the most appropriate way, and give it the colors that are required. And Spare Parts is much more of a Baroque kind of grand opera thing, sort of post-apocalyptic, and it's big and it's fun. And the other piece, Anything for Jackson, is very much like a focused chamber piece. So it's fun for me to just do two very different things.
Yeah, and like it's just refreshing sometimes, because there's some actresses who kind of almost play the same role because they're cast for that type of person that they are. And in this case, well, let's start with Anything for Jackson. Because I found that so interesting how quickly your character Henry and Audrey find out that they're a little bit in over their heads with what they want, what's going on. But excuse me. But my question is, how much pain were they in that it became a viable option to kidnap a pregnant woman?
Good question. I mean, that's at the root of it. And that's what Sheila and myself sort of sat down and talked about. We didn't talk about so much things like, what do we do? What do we eat for breakfast? The literal things. It was like, no, these characters are suffering. They are grieving and they have never coped with their grief. And it hurts. And I think it hurts Audrey even more than Henry, who somehow has a medical practice and he's able to channel whatever's going on, and he can operate in a coherent way. But I think Audrey, it's eaten her. And what happens is that Henry, in his long-term love of his partner, starts to enable her and to appease her and to make sure she's okay and to go down the same path. And I think she leads him down there, but they both do it out of love of each other and deep, deep grief. And I think that's a very cool thing for an actor to play, because it means you're not playing bad guy or good guy or victim, or it's like you're playing the story beat by beat as it goes. And the audience is kind of unsure about what's going on, whether to like you or not to like you, or to find you cute or funny or horrific. It's sort of like it's in the balance. And that's a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think one of my favorite moments from your character was you're on the phone with the detective, and she's like, "I'm coming over," and you're trying to get a handle of a situation, and you just scream. And I think that moment for me made me realize this isn't what he wanted to be doing.
Right.
He's not a vile person. He doesn't have malicious intent. This is just a situation that they find themselves in.
That's exactly it. And I think that's why our audience can identify with it, because that's the situation we all find ourselves in on an everyday level. Hopefully not as catastrophically as Henry and Audrey, but up to a limited degree, we identify with the vulnerability and the mistakes of people rather than the heroic actions. And that for me is why I like this genre, is that it kind of rubs that area of storytelling. It's the vulnerable, it's the fear, it's the unsettling little details of life rather than the accomplishments.
And absolutely horrific imagery.
Yeah.
Man, the flossing lady was the war. I had to turn away.
But you know why? I completely agree, but not because of absolute gratuitous gore and violence, but because it hits you on a psychological level.
Mm-hmm.
And the writer had constructed it in such a way that he knew that every ghost choice that he took was a subconscious terror. Teeth, things growing, things appearing, things bending in ways that they shouldn't bend. All those children appearing. It's like so he's operating very smartly with a minimum of special effects and a minimum of gore and schlock.
Yeah, so yeah, I would say that it was very smart the way you guys did that, and it really made for a really complete, cohesive movie where I felt like I was satisfied with not only the journey, but where we ended up at, which we won't talk about because we want people to go and pick this up. Yeah. So let's switch it up a little bit. Now let's talk about spare parts. Now this one, you're a little bit more devious. You play a character, the Emperor. Tell us a little bit about him. I'm so curious.
So this Emperor rules over this kingdom that is in some godforsaken part of the country. I think it's sort of like, it's almost like a fictional universe. I mean, it feels post-apocalyptic. I think you have to go with the story, and you don't have to ask too many questions about, well, there's a local police force, and there's there's clearly a society, but it's an apocalyptic society, and it's ruled by this guy. And it's a world of biker bars and punk bands and tow truck drivers. And it sort of operates on this idea that our heroes can be duped and kidnapped and surgically changed. Now, our heroes in this case, what makes it, for me, more interesting is that it's an all-female punk band. Mm-hmm. And they're very feisty and very strong. And they have to sort of overcome the odds to set themselves free, and they have to fight like gladiators. And it's kind of a celebration of that genre of kick-ass kind of movie, really, that's grand and outrageous, and almost a little bit campy too. It's got a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek thing without it being overly played. Sort of grindhouse, true grindhouse, right?
Yeah. Like I was gonna mention it. It's very linear, but you go into it knowing what you're gonna get, and you're gonna have a good time. You want those gladiator scenes. You need a character like yourself to really just hate and root against. I do wonder how much in preparing for the role did they give you anything on what those quote unquote old ways were, or was it just kind of like?
No, we like you, the audience, we kind of put our cognitive faculties at the door and kind of entered it, because I think if you start going in too far in a movie like this, you start to undercut the energy. It's like a 3-minute punk song, or actually probably a 2-minute punk song, to be fair to the genre. It's like ba 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 ba, and you're in the moment. And you're on the ride. You're on the fairground ride. You don't question where it came from or what it's doing. You're just on it. And I think the music propels the journey, and the incredible lighting and the incredible sort of just this genre sensibility helps with that. It's like you've suddenly stepped into an underworld.
Talk about that amazing arena that was built, because I talked to Andrew last week, and he was telling me how it actually came together.
Well, as an actor, what a gift. I mean, it's so memorable to be in that natural amphitheater that's made out of junked out cars, Vince Moscovich must take some credit for that. He's the production designer. He created it. He created it on location. So it literally was in a scrapyard, and it was in the middle of nowhere, and the November winds were whipping across the plain there. So but it all added to that kind of feel. It had an authenticity to it, even though I was saying that the style of storytelling is kind of big and baroque. The world was very gritty and very realistic. Well, very visceral, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very, very visually pleasing, and I have to say that without giving too much away, I enjoyed the outcome. It was very cool, and and I don't want to talk about it any further because it's better if you enjoy it as you watch it. So Julian, thank you so much for your time. It's been a real pleasure talking to you. Felt more like a conversation than an interview, and I always enjoy that.
That's good. It's been nice chatting to you too.
So just to recap, anything for Jackson, VOD, digital, DVD, Blu-ray, June 13th, I think.
And anything for Jackson is 15th.
15th. I wrote my 3 wrong. So June 15th.
Yeah.
And then Spare Parts, VOD, digital, DVD, Blu-ray, June 1st.
June 1st. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully we'll see you on some more projects soon.
I hope so. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye-bye.